Hello and welcome to the next stage in learning to fly. Now we've set up the basic foundations for our learner-centered classroom, it's time to start building on these and developing an approach that encourages learners to think for themselves and take charge of their own learning. Today's keyword is spark. Now, I know that sparks aren't something that we usually associate with the classroom, unless perhaps you're a chemistry teacher. But I like this word because it's like a flash, something that can appear in a moment and can either set alight very quickly or disappear depending on what we do. As teachers, we want to try to catch sparks of curiosity and imagination in the classroom and do something with them so that they don't get lost among the vocabulary exercises and homework and classroom routines. Now, don't get me wrong, routines are great. They're essential in creating a safe and stable classroom environment where students feel supported. But sometimes they can get a bit boring and not leave much space for creativity and imagination. In our lessons, we want to get our students as actively engaged as possible, and this means sparking their curiosity. But how can we do this? I remember countless lessons where I thought I'd prepared a really interesting lesson, only for students to be not interested at all and the lesson completely flopped. Well, first of all, rather than guessing what might interest our students, we can ask them. In video 3, we started to learn more about our students and their interests. Any information you can get about your students is really valuable, so keep a note somewhere. Whenever you hear students talking about something enthusiastically, make a note of it. It might come in handy one day when you're trying to find ways to introduce a new topic or come up with ideas for activities that students might enjoy. But it's not just about the topic. In the next video, we're going to look at how to use your own behaviour to encourage students to ask questions, as how we act is just as important as what we do and say. But we can also find interesting ways of introducing a new topic or lesson. And that's what we're going to talk about today. One way of doing this is by starting with a provocation. Now, I know this sounds like something negative. The word provocation usually ends up with someone getting angry or even violent. But here, a provocation is something that sparks curiosity and gets students interested in the lesson topic. For example, say you're just starting a new unit on the topic of the home. A provocation could be some images or short video clips of very unusual homes, like a cave or a treehouse. With younger students, we often use realia or objects. So we might have a mystery box and put these objects inside and then have students guess what's inside before revealing the answer, opening the box and letting them see what's inside. It could also be a storybook related to the topic and you might set up a storytelling session. It could even be some toys or games related to the topic. It could also be a letter from a mysterious person. For example, with a unit on desert islands, you could put a message in a bottle and then invite students to read the letter. With older students, it could be a controversial statement that will provoke some kind of response from students, or it could be a challenge. Whatever the provocation, the idea is to keep the activity as free as possible and allow students to share their ideas and opinions and thoughts. So try to avoid overtly teaching language here, because then it will just seem like a typical classroom activity. Also try to avoid putting ideas or words into students' mouths, and if necessary you could allow them to use their L1 here. The aim is solely to spark curiosity and get students excited about the topic. So this week, whether you're starting a new unit or not, your task is to start a lesson with a provocation. Try to think of something interesting that you could show your students or have them interact with. It could be an image, a video, one or more objects or things to play with. It really depends on your student's age and the topic. I also like to reuse things I find at home where possible. For example, old catalogues or magazines. I don't know if it's the same where you live, but here in Spain we get a lot of advertising from supermarkets and department stores that can work with different topics like food, clothes, toys and the home. And yes, I do sometimes nick them from my neighbours' mailboxes. I'm doing them a favour, honestly. So sometimes with these materials I like to just let my students have a look, or maybe they can cut some things out. You can give them a small task to do if you like. For example, find 3 things you like or choose an interesting page, but make sure that it isn't language focused. If possible, use things that show the topic in a new light or that have an interesting angle, especially if it's a topic that you're already working on. And finally, remember that not everyone will be curious about the same things. Let's try to foster independence by having students choose one thing that they're curious about, even if it's not directly related to your lesson topic or learning aims. You can have students get in groups and share their ideas and questions, and if they have a lot of questions, you can get the groups to choose the best 3 questions. We'll be looking more at questions next week and in other weeks. So now for this week's tip. Accept and welcome any answers and ideas, however unusual or silly, although try to make sure that students remain respectful and tolerant. It's important to let students' creativity and imagination shine. You can even encourage this by challenging them to see who can come up with the most outrageous idea. I'd love to hear what you think of this and the other videos in this series, so please do share your thoughts in the comments below. And let me know which keyword is your favourite so far. I'll see you next week.